In 1956, Americans assembled in Japan to claim their Korean War dead. Soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen had come for these, their fallen comrades, whose mournful ranks in 37 months of combat exceeded 28,000 men. A silent ship, the USS Manchester, waited to receive her precious cargo. Slowly, the solemn procession made its way up the cruiser's gangway. The living came, not to profane their dead with speeches, but to pay them deep-felt, silent homage. The flag-draped caskets were carried to the escort vessel's deck. Soon they would put to sea for their final resting place, the Memorial Cemetery in Hawaii. Placed gently, side by side, these were the men who had pitted their bodies against an aggressor enemy and had died stopping him. To them, though they felt no more, our love. To them, though they could not hear, our salute. The time had come for the living to bid goodbye to the dead. Gears turned slowly, hardly breaking the respectful silence, as the Manchester prepared to sail. Quietly, the great cruiser slid from her berth. To its silent passengers, farewell. Sleep the endless peace, forever shrouded with our love. Go in eternal honor. Your sacrifice endures, enshrined among the milestones of the century. Milestones of the century. As Europe enjoyed the peace and prosperity of the turbulent 20s, France again rattled the drums of war against oppression. Morocco, the land of sand and burning sun that was destined to join the ranks of Africa's free countries, was facing a Moorish invasion. Senegalese soldiers, who had heroically fought against the German armies in World War I, again answered the call in the fight for freedom. In April 1925, as the hostilities increased, the human derelicts of war fled in terror before the RIF invaders. From peaceful villages and towns along the border, overcoming the terrible hardships of mountains and desert, refugees came by the thousands for protection by the French army. Morocco became a relic of an ancient way of life, as a city of tents mushroomed on the hillsides. A people who knew the savagery of the desert fighters waited patiently for the battle that would decide their fate. At Astar, a small village of huts and tents lost amid the sand dunes of Morocco, a battle was written in blood on the pages of freedom. 150,000 troops, including the famed French Foreign Legion, moved into position as artillery shells ripped into the valley. The village slowly disappeared in a shower of flying steel. In a desperate battle, the Riffs with horse and sword challenged the might of the French army. Every battle is marked by a soldier's sacrifice. And throughout the day, as bayonets slashed at the heart of the Riff invasion, fanatical resistance accounted for heavy French casualties. In this day, before mechanized might, caravans of mules provided transportation through the rugged terrain, unmarked by roads or trails. The airplane that had found its place among the machines of destruction in World War I now flew the desperately wounded on missions of mercy. Hundreds reached hospitals who might have died in the rough wastelands. To these heroic freedom fighters, Moroccans owed their gratitude for saving their country from invasion. With the defeat of the Riffs, a glowing milestone of the century cast a ray of freedom's light across the dark continent. Milestones of the century. It was magic. You turned the crank, the pictures flipped, and you could see the first motion pictures in the world of boxing, made in 1897, when Gentleman Jim Corbett held the title as the first heavyweight champion under the Marquis of Queensberry rule. And here we see Corbett in action in an exhibition bout against an obscure opponent named Peter Courtenay. This unique film, 63 years later, gives us an exclusive report on the boxing style of the day and proves that the bikini is nothing new. Boxing grew in popularity through 5 more title holders, and 1915 saw Jess Willard take the crown from Jack Johnson. Willard was a big, good-natured champion, and here he is in 1919 training for his coming title match with a young man who would be responsible for a milestone of the century in sports. 5 inches shorter and 60 pounds lighter than Willard, Jack Dempsey had an impressive series of knockouts behind him as he trained fiercely for his shot at the title. He slashed his way through a string of sparring partners as he perfected the bob and weave style that was to bring him the victory and the crown. Fighting as the underdog, Dempsey won not only the title, but the heart of America. He wore the crown with dignity, and his record of 104 knockouts in 148 fights made him a hero in the Roaring '20s. He became a public idol, a gentleman and a true champion. But he never forgot he was a fighter. In 1921, Dempsey signed to fight Georges Carpentier, the idol of Paris and the French boxing ring. Carpentier, as he was called in America, was a scientific fighter, a boxer, whose style had made him as popular in France as Dempsey was here. It was the match of the century, and public interest was at an all-time high. Dempsey was a tiger in the ring, and Carpentier was a social lion. And together they created the greatest publicity campaign in the history of boxing. Men and women alike were excited by the approaching match. And on July the 2nd, 1921, Jersey City saw the greatest crowd ever assembled for a fight. In the days when 25 cents bought a complete dinner, 80,000 fans paid
from $5.50 to $40 for seats and filled Boyle's 30 acres to overflowing. The Dempsey-Carpentier match lasted only 4 rounds, but it established the first $1 million gate in boxing. Truly a milestone of the century.